Hello, this is Mike at Gamefromscratch, and welcome to This Week in Game Development. This is week 41 of a quick recap of the news and events for the previous week in the world of game development. This is for the week ending October the 3rd, 2016. Actually, technically, it's for the 2 weeks ending October 3rd, 2016. Wasn't quite enough a week ago for me to do a full video on it, so I decided I'd wait, and we're going to get two together. Now, there's actually a lot of news to cover today, so let's jump right in. Now, as always, there is going to be a link down in the comments below that will contain links to all of the news stories we are about to discuss. So, if you want a little bit more details, check the link down below and check out the original news release. Now, the first thing that happened 2 weeks ago was GetRose 2016.8.2 was released. First off, I really like that naming convention. I like people that name their version chronologically. There's a lot of information in that as opposed to 0.9.16.3. I don't give a damn about your internal build number. It's of no use to me for the most part, whereas the date is a date stamp. It's definitely, you've got the sequential detail in there, you've got the exact version of when it came out, etc. I like that naming convention. Anyways, back on topic. GetRose is a Lua-powered, mobile-focused game engine. It's completely free now. It used to be commercial. They open sourced it. Now they're kind of more donation based in how it's developed and driven. And this release brings us a couple of new features. A lot of the stuff isn't really too exciting, but you come down here, some of the GetRose features are nice. They upgraded to the latest version of OpenAL, which is the audio library maintained by the Kronos Group as part of the OpenGL family of products. Shaders can now be created in line in Lua code. That's kind of a nice one for small, quick shader implementations. Textures can be created from raw pixel data, which is always handy, especially if you're doing procedural textures of some form. Control tab will switch between tabs in GetRose Studio. I hate when applications don't support that, etc. So nice incremental features, and we've got some new things being added to Lua as well. So definitely a nice library update on the whole. If you haven't checked out GetRose, if you're a big fan of Lua-powered game engines, you should check it out. Again, it is completely free. Another one, and this one's kind of an interesting development. I'm not sure where this is going to go, but in Exile, the makers of Wasteland and what else did they make? The reboot of the Bard's Tale, and they've got Torment, which is a spiritual successor to Planescape Torment. And speaking of spiritual successors, In Exile itself is essentially a spiritual successor to first Black Isle Studios, which was a spin-off from Interplay, and then eventually Obsidian, who are the people that made the second and probably best Knights of the Old Republic game. And a ton of other great role-playing games in the past. So there's a lot of pedigree in here. Well, anyways, what they're doing now is selling assets from their games. And this is kind of a neat concept. They're not live quite yet, but they're going to be selling them on TurboSquid. Now, TurboSquid is a big repository for 3D models that you can basically buy pre-made models. And what they're going to do is basically sell the models they used in their games, specifically games such as Bard's Tale, Wasteland, and Torment. So if they had to model a chest, you can download and use their chest version. Of course, you got to pay for it. But it's a kind of a neat way to go about things because it allows, basically these A games or AAA games go ahead and make all these contents and assets, and we're talking probably millions of dollars worth of investment here. They create the game and then they sit on it and they're never used again, or possibly they're recycled in a sequel, but that's about it. So if game developers start selling their assets, it could be a boon to other game developers, but then again, it also could be a bit of a bane because what you could have is a lot of sameness. And we're getting this a little bit now. People say that they can recognize Mixamo animations, for example, or assets from the Unity store are definitely cropping up in more and more games, especially on Greenlight on Steam, etc. So it is a double-edged sword, but it is definitely a cool first step, and it'll be interesting to see exactly what kind of prices they're going to be charging for these stock 3D models they've been creating in their games. So hopefully that'll come out soon, and hopefully it'll be priced reasonably well, and hopefully it'll start a trend, and we'll see other developers looking to monetize their efforts, but also make this stuff available to indie game developers and smaller studios who might not have the resources to invest in a billion different assets being created. Another game engine released this week was the Cocos Creator 1.2.2 was released. Now, Cocos Creator is a JavaScript power implementation of the Cocos library over top of the Cocos 2D-X. Now, Cocos 2D-X has been turn-based on Cocos 2D, which goes back probably 15 years. But the Cocos 2D-X is pretty much a C++ port of that, and then they built a JavaScript port over top of it. This is what the Cocos Creator is built around, but Cocos Creator is more than that. It's also a full integrated development environment and studio for creating these games. If you're interested in learning more, I did do a video about it right here. Now, there's not really actually a ton of really exciting things in this particular release. A lot of it is mostly just fixes and tweaks and a little bit of usability changes, etc. Now, another thing that happened this week, it's kind of weird when this happened because basically on the exact same day, both Unity and Unreal Engine released an alpha version or preview version or whatever you want to call it version, a work in progress version supporting Daydream VR. Now, Daydream VR, I haven't really figured out 100% what Daydream VR is, to be honest. It is Google's attempt to implement VR functionality directly into the Android platform. So, for example, Gear VR, which is what Samsung did in their Galaxy phones, they've gotten the motion tracking, the stereoscopic rendering, and all those other things that are required to make VR work. It looks like Google basically baked that into Android. So basically, you're going to have all Android phones in the future having VR support instead of just the Gear VR and the Galaxy Note. So this support is now coming. Also, at the same time, the Google VR SDK, which is what you would actually use to work with Daydream devices, the 1.0 release was just released. So if you're interested in getting involved with that SDK, it is now available for download from Google. And again, if you don't want to work directly at that low level, Unreal and Unity both released preview versions supporting Daydream. Now, another neat release this week was RPG Creator was released for iOS. Now, RPG Creator is from the publisher of RPG Maker, very popular JRPG style game maker for JRPG style games. If you've been on Steam Early Access, you've seen a lot of games made with RPG Maker, and you can make commercial games, and people have made money on it. RPG Creator is a bit different. It's iOS only, so basically it's on your iPad or iPhone you can create games. Now, I did take a look at it. If you're interested, check out the video. I've linked it down here. It'll be part of the story. It's also on my channel if you just want to search the channel for RPG Creator. And I took a hands-on with it, and my end result is there's some neat stuff here. It's a very early release, but this is a toy. It's not a real professional game tool, but it might be at some point in the future. If enough people show interest in it, they might add RPG Maker support to it so you could use it for creating levels and designs on the go, etc. But for now, frankly, RPG Creator is a toy. Another release this week was the Defold Engine 1.2.89. Now, the Defold Engine is a Lua-powered, 2D-focused game engine and editor, and all-in-one. I've been doing an ongoing tutorial series about it. If you're interested, I also have this hands-on video. So, tutorial series is linked here. Hands-on video is available here. Not really much or really anything at all in this release for the most part, just a couple of fixes. The biggest thing is they added spine support in the GUI. Now, spine is a 2D IK based animation system. I actually already did a video on it, so if you're interested in learning more about spine, do search the channel for Gamefromscratch and spine, and you can see spine in action. It's a powerful 2D animation system for basically creating skeletons using bone based animation on 2D models, a lot like you do in a traditional 3D workflow. It's pretty powerful stuff, and I do recommend that you check it out. All right, so we also had this week, ClickTeam Fusion Humble Bundle was released. Now, last time I did this, I was a little too late for you. The nice thing is, if you're listening to this, or somewhere around October the 3rd, this deal is still going on. And I actually bought this, so I'm going to be checking out ClickTeam Fusion. I'll get a video up very quickly, so you can have an idea of what's involved in ClickTeam Fusion. But basically, like the Game Maker Bundle a couple weeks ago, ClickTeam Fusion is now available under the Humble Bundle. And now ClickTeam Fusion is a programless, in theory, game creations kit. It's been around forever. It used to be click and play back in the maybe Amiga days, but early Windows 3.1. So we're talking 15, 20 years of heritage on this guy. But ClickTeam Fusion is available in the base package. You get it. Now this whole thing, this $50 developer credit, but the $50 credit for the developer version is now obsolete. I actually did an update on this one right here, but what they basically did is if you buy the top tier, you also get the developer version. Now the developer version has no splash screen requirements, additional exporters, etc. So it's definitely worth checking out. But there are other things you get in this guy. A lot like the previous Game Maker release, you get a number of games that have their full source code available. So you can check out Necromenads, Rocket source code, etc. You get Five Nights at Freddy's, probably one of the most famous games created in ClickTeam Fusion. If you pay at the $7 tier, and a couple more games for source code. Universal Windows Program Exporter, so the UWP or Windows 10 App Store level support. And then at the top tier, you get the Mac Editor, HTML5 exporter, Fusion Shape source code, Saucer Squad game source code, and installer program, iOS exporter, and also has been added is the developer version and the Android version. So if you've been looking at checking out ClickTeam Fusion, now's the time to jump on it because this is a huge savings. Probably about $1,000 down to $15. So if you're looking at buying all of ClickTeam, Christmas just came early for you. And like I said, I'm going to hopefully get a video out, just taking quick hands-on with ClickTeam. So stay tuned for that. And another game engine released this week was the Banshee engine 0.4 was released. The Banshee engine is cool. It's a C++ game engine, 2D, 3D, with a full Unity-like editor and C# scripting built in. It's just one guy's work. He's got a couple guys working with him, which is cool. So people are starting to collaborate with this open source effort. This release brings us quite a few new updates. So we've got 3D spatial audio, new streaming support for OGG, MP3 FLAC and WAVE, animation system updated, GPU accelerated skin skeletal animation, morph shape animations, 1-2D blending, root and bone animation, etc. So there's a lot of nice little features coming with this particular release. Now, if you're interested in learning more about the Banshee game engine, at the previous version at 0.3, I did a quick hands-on with it. Now, this is very much an under development engine, but it is very cool. We could be looking at our next Godot engine kind of series out here. It's a small C++ powered engine that could form a community around it and really take off. So it's definitely one of those things to check out. Now, it is a split license. It's open source / closed source, pay what you want licensing eventually anyways. Unity released a new version, a new patch. It's 5.4.1 patch 3. Not a lot of really magical stuff happened, just a bunch of fixes and changes. Nothing to get extremely excited about. They also did, however, and this will probably excite people more, and actually, to be honest, I don't really understand why people are so excited about Vulcan, but people are excited about Vulcan, and Unity just released their Vulcan renderer preview. Now, the Vulcan renderer, Vulcan itself is the next version of OpenGL. It's much more low-level, designed to work with modern GPU-style hardware. The nice thing about this particular release, and I guess this is a reason to get excited, is Vulcan is supposedly bringing up to 30% speed increasements, is what they've seen in this, 35% in this initial version for frame rates on Android. So that's definitely a nice perk, but for the most part, Vulcan is one of those things that tool workers should worry about, and not most game developers. If you're developing your own engine, you're going to have to get into Vulcan, and you will actually find that working with Vulcan is a gigantic pain in the ass compared to working with OpenGL, but it does more accurately reflect the way that modern GPU hardware works. So it is a step forward, and eventually pretty much every game engine is going to support Vulcan to some degree, but the preview version of Unity is now available. It is based off of the code for Unity 5.5 Beta 4. The link for it is available in this particular release, so if you do want to get started with Vulcan right away, do jump in right there. Now, another game engine release this week, like the Unity one, is Unreal Engine released 4.13.1 hotfix. Again, almost entirely composed of fixes, crash releases, etc. This has not got new anything for the most part, but it is definitely a new, nice incremental update. Now, another release that happened this week was Autodesk released Max 2A Arnold plugin for 3D Studios Max 2017. Now, Arnold is a standalone company. They make a renderer. Autodesk bought them 6 or 7 months back. This is basically just more tightly integration between Autodesk's 3D Studios Max product and their renderer. So it's a new plugin. It enables you to, basically control more, do a little bit more, a couple more shaders built in. Support for the Max blend material, which is nice. New environmental options, and etc. So basically, it just brings Arnold integration more tightly into 3D Studios Max. And again, Arnold is a standalone 3D renderer. Another release this week was GameGuru 1.132 was released. Now, the coolest thing with this release, there's some fairly small things functionality-wise. We've seen capture Lua arrays when saving your game's progress, so basically you can state save, which is cool, and faster physics. And then we got a number of incremental fixes, etc. But the big thing on this particular release, and this is actually quite cool, is that it comes with a new DLC that is completely free, and it weighs in at 2.8 gigabytes in size. We're talking something on the level of 1,200 new items, basically. So these are our models, assets, textures, etc. Everything that you could use to start creating a game. GameGuru just added 2.8 gigabytes more across these various different categories. So Rome, cartoons, characters, dungeons, gore, historical, medieval, Metro 3, modern day, nature, post-apocalyptic, sci-fi, Viking, Wild West, and World War II. It's also available up on Steam, and the content has already been pushed out live. So if you want to go ahead and grab GameGuru, it now comes with this huge new DLC content pack with 2.8 gigs of assets to help you get started with, on top of what they've already got. And then a lot of GameGuru's actual business model is around other content packs. So if you are wanting to get into game development but are not particularly blessed with artistic abilities, GameGuru is definitely one of those game engines you should check out because there's a huge catalog of assets available. And as I said, now 2.8 gigabytes more of free assets. So if you haven't yet, do check it out. It's available here on Steam or from their website, game-guru.com. And the final new release this week was Blender 2.78 was finally released. Now this is pretty exciting. Blender normally worked under a 6-week release cycle, and they've thrown that in the toilet because it's been about 5 months since the last version of Blender. But boy, was it worth the wait. This 2.78 release brings us a lot of nice new stuff. Now, probably the biggie is bendy bones, or B-bones, which are bones basically designed to be bent. So things like animating an eyebrow, for example. But that's just the tip of the surface here. They added spherical stereo image rendering support, so you can now basically do VR, and it'll handle the warping and such you need for like a VR rendering for you. Grease Pencil is really been upgraded. Full 2D drawing and animation. I did a little bit of a video on the Grease tool a little bit a while back. So they're basically starting to get more into a fluid 2D animation system built into Blender. Viewport rendering has been improved, which is definitely nice. Freehand curve drawing over surfaces, which is very useful for very many things. As I mentioned earlier, bendy bones, Alembic support, so you can import and export basic operations. New cloth physics operations, new add-ons. Now, one of these add-ons I actually checked out just recently, and it is called Archimesh, and it's an arch visualization mesh. Plugin for Blender. It enables you to do things like build buildings very, very simple. Actually, using that particular grease pencil, you can draw a wall, have the walls up and gone, add windows to the wall, pitch a roof, etc. in minutes. It's if you're looking at doing 3D level prototyping, I do recommend you checking it out. And if you do, hey, look, I've got a video about that. So that's a plugin that was also part of this release. This is a big release. It's nice to see Blender is improving faster, in my humble opinion, than 3D Studios Max and Maya combined. This is a great direction for Blender. I love seeing these kind of releases. So do be sure to check out Blender 2.78 if you are a Blender user. And that's it for this week's news. There was actually quite a bit. It's a pretty exciting time. You know, we're out of the summer doldrums, so hopefully we'll keep seeing more and more news releases. If you did enjoy this video, please do click like. And again, I do one of these every week or two. And if you do want your news recaps, please do click subscribe. And on top of that, we've got all kinds of tutorials, game engine reviews, you name it. Basically, I try to be the one-stop information source for game developers. I hope I've succeeded at that task. But if you are interested in this kind of content, please do click subscribe. We update stuff all week long. All right, so that's it. I hope you found that useful. See you all later. Goodbye.